All right, so thanks for coming to our session where we're just going to kind of blab on and on about what it's like to have this really old website. I'm Catherine Senzi. This is
Pat
Telia. And we are waiting for CHX, Charlie, to join our... he was in the wrong Google Meet. How very predictable.
What did you join the daily stand?
Okay, sweet. All right,
there he is. Okay.
All right, we're going to stick you on to... Yeah. They would like you to say something for the sake of the AV here. Oh, he went off video. Okay, we're going to do him off screen apparently. Okay, Charlie, can you say something?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Here we are. Okay, here we are in the room. Everyone says hello, and we can hear Charlie, and they can hear him. All right. I think we're good to go. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Thanks a lot, Chad. All right. Before we get started, many thanks to our sponsors. I'm thrilled to have this conference start up again. I'm so glad people are sponsoring it. Really appreciate that. Yeah, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves here. Charlie, would you like to introduce yourself briefly? Or shall I...
Can you hear us?
Yes, sure.
Oh.
So, my name is Karolin Higashi, better known in Drupal circles as CHX. I have been working on Drupal for 20 years. I have been at Smartsheet for 9.
He is on screen.
Okay, move him on screen. Okay, thank you. And you were living in Vancouver, BC for how long?
I have been living in Vancouver for 15 years, from 2008 until last year.
Yeah, so I mean, if he's, here we go. All right, here we go. We stick you right there. So if he's not at least honorary PNW, I don't know who is. So, so that is Charlie. I'm Catherine. And yeah, I've got our proof that we're old basically up here on screen. So yeah, Charlie's been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing it for 17. Pat, is it really only 16?
I'm the new guy.
The newbie.
I'm the new guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we all met in the issue queue. Great way to meet other contributers. I'm not sure we could have met anywhere else, right?
I don't think it's possible. Yeah.
Like folks from all over the world. Yeah.
You know, the Drupal IRC channel. That might have been
yeah.
Views queue.
Yep.
Views documentation queue, yeah.
So as far as our experience with this 18-year-old site, which is www.smartsheet.com, by the way, we only have 10 years of institutional knowledge of that particular site. The first 8, you know, I keep thinking maybe the guy that used to work on that site is going to pop up at a conference at some point. Anyway. So I came on board in 2014 and took over from the external contractor that had been working on the Drupal 7 upgrade. So I was there for the Drupal 6 to Drupal 7 upgrade. So yeah, I guess the first question I wanted to address here is why we stuck with Drupal in the first place. Because a lot of sites, you know, they're with Drupal for a while and they switch, or they're with something else for a while and they switch to Drupal. If anyone was at Greg Dunlap's talk yesterday morning, he quoted an information architecture guy, I think, saying that people don't really hate their CMS, because people will say, "Oh my gosh, I hate my CMS. It's so clunky and awkward." They don't really hate their CMS. They hate the people that set the CMS up for them and how we ruined it. And so I think it's pretty frequent that people will switch into or out of Drupal, not because of anything that Drupal does or doesn't do, just because they need a fresh start. And so what has been, you know, kind of surprising to me is they never switched away from it. They did consider a WordPress switch in 2013 or 2014. And the thing that made them stay was the IT department insisting that they needed a good, robust roles and permission system. So at that point, the web development team, which was about 2 people at that time, said, fine, but we need someone who actually is a Drupal developer to kind of take this off our whatever burden off of us, because if you're not a Drupalist and you're supposed to be updating a Drupal site, that would be pretty miserable.
Yeah.
So they found some Drupalists. And at that point, the company had a little over 100 employees, and we now have 3,500 plus. So it has been kind of a big ride.
We did move off of Drupal on one site.
On one site, we
Community.
did. That's true.
Yeah. Which is weird because Drupal, the drop, was initially intended to be a community forum sort of site.
Right.
But its purpose has changed, and with it changed our goal with our community site. We found a solution that was more gamified for our users.
Important, apparently.
Yeah. Apparently, for business reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that has been key for us is we have, so Smartsheet. I should tell you who Smartsheet is. We are all Smartsheet employees, and Smartsheet is an excellent software as a service enterprise work management system. So basically, you can make it look like a spreadsheet and put in all your tasks or whatever, but you can also make it look like Trello, or you can make it look like a calendar. It's very cool. It is not written in Drupal. It's just software. We, however, running www.smartsheet.com, need to have integrations with that app, right? If you want to sign up for our service, you go to smartsheet.com and you click on the, try a demo or whatever it is, sign up for our app. We have to integrate, right? And so doing that integration from the basis of an open source platform is, a lot simpler.
Yeah.
You've got control over the entire stack. So I think the other thing that has made it possible for us to stay on Drupal for this long is the company is used to employing engineers. Like, it doesn't scare them to have a team of a few engineers to run a website. So that has helped.
Although we're super insulated from the rest of the company.
We are.
The app team is like 95% of the company, and we're this little 5% that gets to do our thing over in the corner here.
All right. So let's talk hosting. Did one of you have things that you want to say here, or shall I continue
I love
blabbing
Amazy.
on?
I love Amazy.
We love Amazy.
That's what I want to say about that.
Yeah.
They're not sponsoring us in any way. We've switched hosting a couple of times and ended up on Amazy, and yeah, you can breathe a sigh of relief every time you know that you are in their hands, and anytime you have a problem, and you can just get on Slack, and 2 seconds later somebody is fixing it for you.
They do not know we're even saying anything about them in this talk. I didn't even give them a heads up. So
they are great.
Entirely unsponsored. Until 2016, we were on our own hardware, which was a single server at Rackspace. So we've done a couple of hosting moves since then. What we found, which is important information for software companies specifically who are hosting a public website, is not to host your website in the same place that you're hosting your software application. Because when the software application goes down, where are people going to go for information? Your public website is also down. So we had that disaster a few times and got onto external hosting as fast as we could. I think the only other thing that I had to say about hosting is that it's just important to be, if you're going to do external hosting and not like run your own server someplace or set of servers, it's important to be with a company that matches your size. You do not want to be a small company's hugest client or a big, huge company's tiniest client. You want to match that. And as we have grown, we have needed to move from hosting to hosting. However, if you've got a company that's got a few big clients and you're one of those big clients, that works great. So I'm not trying to scare people off of being bigger clients of a smaller company.
It's pretty nice, actually, because you get, they really value you. You get priority response. They kind of bend over backwards to help you. It's not bad being a big fish in a smaller pond.
As long as you're not the only big fish.
Yeah, as long as you're not.
Right?
Yeah.
The situation you do not want to be in is you are considering, all right, it's time for upgrading our database to whatever, the next version of MySQL. And so you ping your hosting company and you say, what has been your experience with these upgrades? And they're like, well, we've done a couple of them on small sites, but since you're our only big site, we don't really know how it's going to go. You do not want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Okay, unless somebody else has something to say here, I'm going to move on to talking about our deployments. The holy grail for me would be a deployment situation where nobody notices anything, right? No inconvenience to anybody. On sites like, well, let's take Drupal.org because this is a site that we're all fairly familiar with, I imagine. When they have to do upgrades, they have to do big things, they've got a maintenance window, right? Sometimes you just can't get to Drupal.org. And that's okay, because that's the entire audience for Drupal.org understands you've got to make some upgrades sometimes. We are in a situation where that is not an acceptable trade-off for us, because the people that we really care about for our website are people who want to go to the upper right-hand corner and click log in and go to the Smartsheet app. That site, that page of the site has to be available for them. If we can possibly have it available 100%, it needs to be 100%. Every time it goes out for even a minute, we have to have a write-up about it. So that's the thing that we are prioritizing as we do deployments. What we can do is tell everyone who is a content author on the site, hey, we're going to have a content freeze for the next 3 hours, or whatever it ends up being. So if you do any work, sorry, it's not going to show up.
Yeah. The site won't be down. They can still get on. But if they type something in and save it, it's gone 2 hours later.
Yep, because what we end up doing is an entire flip of production sites. I can sit and describe the blue-green architecture, but I'm talking a lot. If one of you wants to describe it.
It checks, you haven't said anything at all.
I mean, he's got a slide later.
He does have a slide later. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, we have 2 prod servers for each of our sites. And what we tend to do is we make all the changes, we get all of our branches merged and developed, we replicate that up to the standby server, make sure it's all good, QA tests it, and then we flip. But that 2-hour window comes from when we're replicating the database from prod down to the staging server. And so anything from that point where we say we're pulling this database to the database is there and we've queued it and set it live, that's gone. But the front end never sees any difference. Our switch is like that. So it's just a DNS switch, right? In the end, it's...
That's actually an interesting question. I don't think it's DNS. It's Kubernetes.
Oh, yeah.
They're changing the ingress.
Yeah.
And that makes it sound like I know a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah, they're doing a tricky thing on their end, which we don't have to care about because it's amazing and they do good work.
Exactly.
So anyhow, yeah. It's super easy for us, but it does require a 2-hour window for content people to be down, but nothing else is ever down. So
we've talked about ways to make that 2-hour window even shorter.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've tossed around is, could we do something with the bin log? Could we, at the beginning of the 2-hour window, go ahead and take a database dump, but don't tell our users, hey, it's a content freeze, because it's not actually a content freeze yet, and then later replay the bin log from here up to the point where we're actually ready to throw the switch. So the window would be the time that it takes to replay that log, which would be shorter.
But our company's pretty used to it now.
They are.
And so, they go get a coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal to them.
So it really is just a question of who are your users that you care about the most? Who do you have to prioritize? Who is it okay to inconvenience, right? And so it absolutely is going to be different from Drupal site to Drupal site. And there really is no perfect deployment system that everybody ought to be using.
There's no one true way.
Yep. All right. Solving unsolved problems. I'm going to turn this over to Charlie to talk about what we do when someone wants a feature and that feature doesn't exist anywhere. How do we solve that?
Right. So this is something we deal with often because unlike in an agency model where you have a huge requirements gathering phase, create a site, ship it. We have a pretty constant emergent requirement. So people try to use our site and find some aspect that is not working for them, and then we try to make it better for them. Sometimes these are very small, just change a piece of description, remove a button, something like that. But sometimes it's truly an entire feature that is missing. Although when we give the Drupal sales page, we usually say that you rarely hit genuinely new problems no one has hit before, because core has very rich functionality, because there are so many config modules. The reality is not so rosy. Actually, we do hit problems that just nothing even close exists, or what exists doesn't fit our needs for one reason or another. Once we have identified that we actually need to write a new module, the next question is this going to be a custom module, or are we going to try to contribute it back? First, let's explore a custom module. Well, the problem here was that, and this is still a problem to be fair, is that some people are preparing a large change to a node, which will be published in the future. It takes days, weeks to prepare this. But meanwhile, the live versions still need to be editable, right? You might have a typo, you might just need to be able to do some small fixes. There are some core mechanisms for this. Content moderation, that has poor interaction with paragraphs. Workspaces in core, it seems a bit unfinished, especially in Drupal 10, which we currently run. And the aforementioned live version editable comes with parallel workspaces module. This only appeared this August. So years ago, we solved this problem by writing the drafter module. This builds upon replicate, and you replicate the node, and it gets marked as a draft. When this draft is published, the content of it is copied back to the original node, and the draft node is deleted. This is not a generic module. We have a specific chunk of code to fix menu names, another to fix translation management job items. If this were generic, then we would need to make a plugin manager, and these would be plugins. At another place, it alters every entity form it needs to work with, except the replicate confirm form for one reason or another. Because that's also an entity form. Now, if this were a generic module, we would need to figure out just how to tell that this is such a form that we don't want to alter it, or we would need to store the list of these forms somewhere. But because this is custom, we just hardwire this information and move on. So this works. Drafter does the job. I would say that in the last couple of months, maybe a year, it has been fairly steady, not many complaints about it, but it's not great. It's not really elegant code, it's not truly intuitive for end user. It has a serious problem that if a timeout occurs when we are copying back, then recovery is very hard or impossible. So now we batch the copying back. And this has so far proven elaborate. Perhaps contributing it back and soliciting community feedback would have been better. I'm certainly prone to be blinded by my own ideas and miss better ones, which are almost self-evident. But actually, how to solicit feedback is not clear anymore. There was a mailing list long ago, long gone, IRC, long gone, groups.drupal.org, that for 4 years. Most Slack channels, there's no discussion ongoing on that. So I really don't know where to get ideas from. But maybe if it were a contrib module, then people would raise issues and perhaps contribute better solutions. But let me talk for a second about a contrib module. We made one. Well, we actually made several, but let's talk about one. So the problem was that many people wanted to keep the edit interface in English, even when on foreign language domains. So the content needs to negotiate the language per URL, but the interface needs to negotiate the language per user. And code lets you do that. That is amazing. That is so amazing. This was new in Drupal 8, and it's an amazing feature. The problem is that aside from setting up this negotiation, there's just no support for this. Fixed strings translate to interface language. Config translation only translates to interface language. So field labels, entire web forms should be content language, at least for us, and not interface. So we wrote a module called Translate to Content Language, or trans for short, and this fixes all the problems listed. It even extends the tweak template engine so that the templates in default theme are using the content language, so our themers never need to think about this. There's a submodule which causes the core config translation functionality to use content language instead of interface. Now, we contributed this back. We contributed this back 4 years ago. And unlike the drafter, I'm very proud of the code. It's not a lot of code. It really does the job well. We haven't had bugs with it for 4 years. So that's pretty good. Now, there are 16 users of this. 16, according to Drupal.org. Of course, there is basically no feedback whether this is something people need or any improvement. We are utterly in the darkness. We even submitted some parts of it for core inclusions, but they just linger there. We don't know. Is there no one else where a significant portion of staff wants this language split? Are they just unaware of this contrib module and our core efforts? Or are we just going in the entire wrong direction and core wants to do something else? We don't know. There's nowhere to ask. There's no one to ask from. We don't know what's going on, really. So one sad lesson here is that if you make a website which is alive for this long and you constantly improve it, as we do, then you need to be prepared to find yourself very much alone, even in a community as big as the Drupal one.
Thanks. Yeah, that has absolutely been an interesting facet of having this site be alive so long. We've got a thing that works great for us. Here it is, we've built it, and the entirety of the project goes in a different direction. This is what we had happen with, so paragraphs module. Lots of folks use paragraphs. There are some downsides to nested paragraphs. We solved that for ourselves by using the bricks module, which I first heard about at a conference someplace, and I was like, wow, this is slick. I'm going to try this out. We tried it out, and we were like, wow, this is slick. it needed some improvements, and so Charlie offered to help maintain the module and got commit access, and so we've made the improvements that were needed, and it's nifty. It's a great solution for us. Lets our web producers create all kinds of, it's basically, here's a component, here's a component, here's a nested component. We've defined all of our components. They can slot them in as needed in, 2-column layout, 3-column layout. It's really slick. Core is going in a totally different direction now, right? We're going to have Experience Builder as part of Drupal's Starshot or Drupal CMS, which is being renamed too.
But we're pretty heavily built on this.
We're really heavily built on this.
So,
if we were getting ready to start a new Drupal site, we would say, hey, let's go with Experience Builder, or something that will easily migrate to Experience Builder. If we were going to migrate this site off of Drupal, we would say, our data's here, we'll scrape it or something and pull it into the new system. However, we're going to stick with Drupal. So what do? Do we do a really complicated migration of all of our nested components to the new system? We don't know yet because Experience Builder isn't final yet, so we just don't know. But it's like you're growing kind of parallel to core, and it's like at some point you have to rejoin core or just be prepared to forever maintain this thing you're doing out in this other direction on your own, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird place to be in. All right, I'm going to find my mouse and make Charlie a little smaller here. Okay, smaller. It's great to stay in the same code base for years. We did switch Git repos from 7 to 8, but that's the only switch that we've done. So we've got some stuff that's been around since I started, certainly in 2014. We've got certainly some JavaScript that worked the same way in Drupal 6 as it does in Drupal 10, and I'm pretty sure it worked the same way in Drupal 5. It's very old.
Yep.
And it's darn good by now. I have been iterating on that code for 10 years.
And developer scripts, like local setup stuff, things of that nature. She wrote it. It's gold. It's like every little fix makes our lives just a little better, and we've had it for years. And
it's not just me.
Absolutely a bonus. No.
And every time
JT's actually making changes.
Yeah,
JT.
yeah. I know, right?
Sorry, you don't know who JT is. Inside joke.
Every time that somebody's got some little annoyance or whatever, it's worth the time to fix.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to be dealing with it down the road, so you might as well go ahead and fix it. So it really does lend itself to internal systems getting iterated on a lot. It's really cool you've got this ticket, you're going to have to launch a new content center or whatever it is. And it's a whole bunch of content that has to get launched, and some new taxonomy terms, and I don't know, some views or something. And you're like, how did we flip that live the last time we did something big like this? All you have to do is go to your .install file of your custom module and see what they did 4 years ago or 6 years ago. It's all still there.
Yeah, that Git log, that Git history is gold too, because doing a little grip on your several-year-old Git log gets you information quickly.
I went spelunking in the Drupal 7 Git repo the other day for something because I was pretty sure we had done it, and I couldn't find it in Git, and it was in the D7 repo. And just so many opportunities for we've done this before, we're going to do it again, we're going to do it just a little bit better, which is somewhat similar to agency work, right? In that, we did it on this site, we'll do the same thing again, just a little better. But it's just kind of wild when it's your exact site. We become our own contrib repository, for the most part. Every site has one of these helper modules that kind of gets crufty until you change sites and then you start building it again. Ours just has the SD8 module, which didn't used to be the SD8 module. Anyhow, it's pretty big now. A lot of little helpers in there. And that's it's where we go check before we try to do something ourselves. There's quite a bit of code there, So that's what's great about staying in the same code base for years. It is also not so great to stay in the same code base for years. I think, Pat, you had some stuff to say about
I had
this?
some stuff to say about this, yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably nothing that anybody with a little bit of intuition wouldn't figure out, but you eventually have to fix your own mistakes, or maybe you don't. And I'll have a point on that later. But the chances of the next person to touch the code that you wrote, this is her point, but it resonates, is that it's going to be you is very high. Like, who wrote this? Catherine. Okay, give Catherine the ticket. It's pretty easy. You don't have to go through the whole issue queue and wait 8 years for somebody to comment and work on it. You can just fix it. It's yours. I'm not going to cover this because Chuck's already covered this.
Okay, fair enough.
But also, tech debt can accumulate, and it has a tendency to, because you do not have an external motivation to clean up as much. It gives you an environment to be a little bit more lazy on cleaning up stuff that, like, say you move from a smaller house to a bigger house, and you have all this space, and you get stuff, and you put it in the closet, and you were like, maybe I should clean out the closet. No, I don't need to. It's like, I've got plenty of space. Why would I want to clean out that closet? That's what happens with our tech debt. Like, I've got some stuff in my Coveo module that when I did it, I was like, I'll just hold on to this. I changed things from being page-based to being paragraph-based, but I wanted this router thing because it was really clever. So I kept the router. I didn't clean it out. We've never used it since that was 4 years ago. So, like, it's possible to just keep kind of accumulating cruft, and that cruft becomes a real pain later when you're trying to clean up and you don't know whether this is important or not. That was one of the biggest things I had to say about that. But
yeah, and it's funny because, like, when you're handing over a site to the client, right, you've got this external motivation to clean up, right? Because whoever's going to be maintaining that site is going to see your work.
Somebody else is going to see it, yeah.
Right? In this case, even with the three of us, unless one of us is specifically like, hey, we need some review on this or whatever.
That even happened with fields for us, right? And we had to go through and, like, do a whole huge refactor of our fields because we had so many one-offs that could have just been built on base fields. So
it's funny the different things that turn into cruft.
Right.
You wouldn't expect fields to be cruft necessarily. Everyone sees them all the time,
definitely
right?
Do. Yeah. I imagine files is another one that could be media. Yeah. I didn't even write a note about that, but that's another big one.
That's a big one.
That's a different session.
I don't know. Yeah, okay.
I started writing this last night about 10 o'clock, and I'm not sure if I stayed on track, but some things can stray from their original purpose when they've been given enough time. So Greg's conversation actually talked about this, where he talked about sites will get a flex page where you can put an HTML block in there, or you can put multiple HTML blocks, and then people will use that flex page for everything. And that happens with more than just flex pages. That happens with, I'll go back to it because I do Coveo on our site more than anything else. Coveo is an external search engine, and when they brought me on 5 years ago, it was with the intent to integrate this external JavaScript-driven search engine into our Drupal site. And so I did it. And then, everybody made the word Coveo synonymous with search on our site, and then that became synonymous with any time you want stuff on a page. And so now, like, everywhere we as Drupalers would normally have just built a view, it's a Coveo search block with Coveo results.
Because we gave them a hammer.
Because we gave them a hammer, and they could put a paragraph on a page and make it happen. And so it got spread far and wide. That can happen, I think, a lot more with long-standing sites than it can with an agency-driven site or with a smaller unit.
Yeah, or a site that has a lifetime.
Right.
Right? Normally, the site is born and the site dies, and that is its lifetime. And it's not 18 years. Right? So at some point, that really annoying feature that you built that got overused is going to be sunsetted. It never gets sunsetted. It just keeps on living and living and living.
Well, we're fixing that problem right now, though.
I mean, that particular problem.
That particular one. There's a lot more of them.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's all I had to say about not being so great.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I guess this is just kind of our, anyone who is like, I've got this site and it might just live forever, what should I do? Okay, so my colleagues in the room will laugh, but the thing that I care about the most is just put your ticket number in your Git commit. Like, just put it in the commit message. Like, I don't care how bad the commit message is if it has a number in it that I can go look up in a ticket tracking system. We've had 2 ticket tracking systems at least since we started, the current repository.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't care. I don't care which of it is. I just need a number. Put a number in there, because the number of times that has saved us. Because you look at a piece of code and you're just like, I have no idea what this is.
Secondary to that is definitely do good squash commit messages.
Yeah.
I like those.
I don't want to start a holy war between people who like merge commits and people who prefer squash commits.
Yeah. I'm not trying to start a holy war. I'm just saying good documentation where you can see it quickly is the best thing.
Yeah. I mean, the merge commit people are obviously wrong, so we. But yeah, whatever you do, you need to be able to figure out, why did we do this 6 years ago? Why did we do this 10 years ago? And I feel like in a Drupal context, I'm preaching to the choir, because anyone who has done Drupal core development knows that the Drupal project is amazing in that way. You can run git blame on any file and see for every line, gosh, this was last changed 12 years ago. You can go back and find that issue and actually see what they were thinking. It's amazing. And so being able to do that on your actual Drupal site is also pretty amazing. So ticket numbers and commit messages. Yeah, I think for us it has been really important to have somebody smarter on speed dial. Yeah.
Get yourself a CHX. That's what
is the real advice. And I believe CHX is available for consulting, right? I mean, takes consulting clients. Whoever it is that's smarter than you, get them on speed dial and pay them money, right? I think that in an open source context, we have this really frequent tendency to be frustrated when people just won't help with the code that they wrote. It's like, well, you wrote it, you should feel some responsibility. And those of us who've been, we've all been around for a while, right? We understand that that's unfair. They're just contributing. They're just volunteers. The leap that we sometimes don't make is they might just help you for money. They probably have an hourly consulting rate. Even someone who's never done any consulting, if you ask them, hey, what would you charge me hourly to go over this with me and figure out a solution? They're probably going to come up with an hourly rate that they would charge you to figure out a solution. Just pay people to fix things for you. I think for us, besides having Charlie on speed dial, the translation management system, I don't know how many folks in here use translation management. I don't even know how many folks in here do multilingual. That was something I had actually never done when I came on board at Smartsheet. But translation management is you push up, hey, I got all of this content that needs translating, this node and this paragraph and this media item. You hit submit, push it up to your translation provider who has a plugin for the translation management system. They can do the translation on their, whatever their translation management system is. Push it down to Drupal and it just pops up in your site like magic. We needed a new feature for that. There was no way we knew enough to build that feature. We either could sit there and scratch our heads about it, or we could say, I'm sorry, you can't have that feature, which is never a good idea in our situation. They're just going to move to like Adobe Experience Manager or something if we do that. A little bit of money was the solution. We figured out, well, who wrote this code? Where do they work? Talk to their employer. Will you do this work for us? Yes, absolutely, we'll do this work for you.
We did that on the brand folder module too.
We did as well.
And occasionally, I believe Smartsheet has also hired agencies to get us through certain spots.
Sure.
So, pay people if you can, people that have the expertise in that particular thing. We can't know everything.
Yeah.
So
I think even if you are a small agency and you're struggling with this problem and you don't want to pay someone money, right? That goes against the grain. It's probably a good use of your money. It really is very powerful to get the person who actually knows this on board to spend even an hour.
And they'll do it so much faster, or help you understand it so much quicker.
So yeah, basically our last point is we're not really all that smart, right? We just find the people that are.
Make the first point about getting somebody like checks on speed dial.
Up to this, how people will figure out an hourly rate for you. I have a very funny anecdote about this from my previous workplace. We were using MongoDB very early, and we were the first company to actually try to pay 10 at a time for consulting. They needed to figure out how to accept money, and now they are a public company. So people will figure out. If you want to pay them, they will take your money. They will.
Yep. Did you have something else you wanted to say, or I'm not sure if I cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, have somebody come on speed dial or just get hired by somebody smarter. It's easier that way. But yeah, no, having smart people around you and hiring them and paying for them it's the best use of your time and money.
Yep.
So, especially on somebody else's money, like Smartsheets.
Also convenient.
Yeah, it's the best use of their money too, even if they don't end up knowing about it. But.
Yeah, and the bigger your company gets, right, the more of a pain that is. If you've got a really small agency, it's hard to charge money. I mean, it's hard to pay money for someone. If you've got a really huge company, it's hard to pay money to someone because then you have to go through the procurement department, and it takes 6 months or whatever. Yeah. And I guess my only point is it's worth the time, it's worth the effort.
The last point is knowledge management is a huge challenge that we've got. So we've tried Wiki, we've tried our own Drupal site, we've tried a lot of things, and they don't stay up to date. And we don't put the time and effort into them that we should. We haven't institutionalized recording how things work as part of our process. I think that's a lesson we need to probably just do.
Yeah, I think that the thing that we have failed to do, that I have tried not hard enough over the years to do, is just force everybody to use the same system.
Yeah.
And that's been the thing that
any system.
I don't care what the system is, right?
Yeah.
Post-its, I truly don't care.
No.
Just if it's all in the same place. And again, this is something that is cruft over the years, right? At one point we were like, we have an entire website whose point is to publish articles about how to use software. Why don't we just use that website, help.smartsheet.com. We'll just carve out a little chunk of it, create a taxonomy term that's, employees only, right? You have to be an authenticated user to see the stuff in there. And we'll just put our own information in there. And that worked for a while, and then people quit doing it, and the company said, hey, we're all going to use Confluence, and some of the stuff moved to Confluence, and some of the stuff stayed. It
doesn't matter. Even if you do stay in one place, like when you get a rush ticket and you've got to go change a thing, and you got to get it through QA and published live, or you're hot fixing a thing and you've changed where the friggin' API key is stored or something, and you don't record that. Yeah. It just has to become part of the process. It's got to be like QA. You have to have it in there.
As a programmer, it's overall very often not even clear where to put certain kind of information. So this has recently hit us that we have a problem where it doesn't even matter what was it specifically, but it turned out that I have fixed a bug with the same code about half a year ago, and I just forgot about it. This was actually on help.smartsheet.com, which is a little bit younger than ... but not much. But anyways, just where do you put a piece of information that on help every save creates a new revision? This is an extremely hard problem, managing knowledge like this, and we don't have any solution to it. We can put a piece of comment, we put a piece of code comment that this here is to solve this problem, but that doesn't mean that the next time the cause of it causes another bug, we will know.
Yep.
This is very hard. This is really, really hard, and we don't have a solution to it.
Ticket numbers.
Right. So anyone who was around for the Drupal 8, the beginnings of Drupal 8 and config management, being able to import and export config, might remember that we were scratching our heads about what format to use for that configuration. Well, maybe we'll use YAML, maybe we'll use JSON. Oh, that was weird. You know, maybe we'll use, TOML wasn't even a thing yet, so it didn't get, you know, but we settled on YAML partly because you can put comments in it. Except we have never figured out since then, and it's been a long time, we've never figured out since then how to actually put comments in your YAML in such a way that they don't get wiped out on the next config export.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward to, as a community, Drupal figuring out how to do that. I'm sure that the fix is going to happen
Right away.
Right away.
Super
Yeah.
quick. Yeah. Not 8 years from now.
Yeah. So yeah, this is we're ending with the thing that we have no idea how to do. The thing, I guess in closing, whatever solutions we come up with are going to last for a really long time, and they're amazing. And whatever problems we end up with, we have them for a really long time, and they stick around.
Or we have a very long time to fix them.
Well, that's the good side, right? Some of them actually get fixed. I think that's it.
That's it.
All right.
You guys have any questions? Oh no, not you.
You're dangerous. Okay.
No, just like I was thinking about what you said a little bit earlier on about how you've got your environment super tuned and dialed for all things, and you've spent all this time like making everybody's lives easier by all the environment updates and email wellness, those things. How shareable / transferable is some of that stuff? So like if you did have to abandon this code base for a new version that used the experience manager or whatever, how much of that stuff could you bring with you, and how much of that stuff could maybe the rest of the community use or be useful if they're starting at this from your long...
That's exactly the problem that Charlie was talking about, right? Like how much of this stuff is in fact like possible to generalize so that other people can use it.
And the other problem is that we're, to be a little bit more business-minded about it, we're not paid to contribute to Drupal.org. You know, we're paid to fix our problems. We're paid to make our site work and to help our internal clients. And taking a generous amount of time to generalize certain things that are somewhat helpful to us or to making our problems work, it's maybe not in our best fiscal interest. That doesn't mean that we don't want to. Like, I used to love to contribute to Drupal.org. I have hardly done it in 5 years.
Yeah, the commit credit system has been amazing at getting folks who profit directly from Drupal to contribute back, right? You've got this obvious, you know, you have to have so much commit credit to show up on Drupal.org as someone who's a relevant provider of Drupal services. End users like Smartsheet, there's very little incentive, right? The only incentive that we have to contribute stuff back is A, we're trying to be good citizens, right? B, the possibility that someone might come up with an idea for our code that is better than the ideas that we came up with. Those two incentives have been enough to keep us contributing a certain amount. But
like you said on Trank, it's, or Trance, Trank, I don't know.
Charlie, is T-R-A-N-C, is that, do you pronounce that Trance or Trank, or how are we pronouncing this module?
I don't pronounce it really.
Transy.
I never needed to.
Transy, okay.
Like, that's a good example. It has 16 users over 4 years. It's a contrib module that is, it's
amazing.
It's an amazing module.
I mean, Charlie wrote it himself.
No visibility
He's not gonna,
whatsoever.
But yeah,
so,
yeah.
Like,
and what do? Do we advertise that? Do we go out and make an effort?
Do we proselytize at every Drupal event and say, look at our cool module. You may have an edge case that might need it. How many people in this room are translating? 1. Okay.
3.
Okay. Good. 3 out of all of us. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, we're going to be speaking to a minority who is then maybe going to need it and maybe not, and then from there may give a crap or not about that module. So, like, it's a lot of effort to get something out there that may or may not. I mean, it doesn't help us very much in the end because it's already working for us.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not trying to be all self-serving, but at a certain point, I'm not out there working for the Drupal community anymore, as I was in the beginning and contributing back. I'm working for Smartsheet.
Yeah. So it's really that. It's the fact that we have all been in the Drupal community for a long time, and we know we need to be good citizens.
Yeah.
That's the incentive. I don't think that's the right incentive setup. Like,
it's not the way to get
not.
Smartsheet to help us contribute.
Yeah.
So, and I find it very difficult when we're kind of a marginalized department in our company to ask
Oh yeah,
for it.
absolutely. I'm not asking them for any more resources.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a hole in the commit credit system. Basically, it's just a little tiny case that
What you got?
Well, this is all sounding super familiar. We're moving our 10-year-old Drupal 7 site to Drupal 10 or 11. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh no, we're just going to do this again.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm hearing about is that, that feature that we just kept updating. It was a map that had content on it, and then there was a slideshow on the content. And someone put a video in the slideshow, and someone added a transfer button to the video.
Yeah.
It's your flex page. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's at some point we should have said no, we're not going to do that.
That's what Greg Dunlap would have said.
Yeah.
And so what's the rule of thumb for when to say no? How do we think about our features?
So Greg said put guardrails around it when you start. So, and it makes sense, right? Because if you give people the power to just keep blooping things in there, it will happen. So I guess the answer is like that stupid one, don't let it start. Like, but
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. Don't let it start then.
So yeah, check out the corporate time travel machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we're keeping up with core, then
build new feature that has better guardrails and have them start over. It's painful.
Yeah. And especially when you're in the middle of a really expensive migration that's taking, twice as much time as you were hoping it was going to take. It's really hard to be super intentional about your content types and your content structure. It will pay off.
And I think another good thing is to probably invest in some time with a good UX person. I will say Greg's presentation made a big impression on me, and it's something that it's ridiculous because our internal customers are the UX and content people. So
right, they're the ones creating a lot of.
But
content.
we're still susceptible to it.
Yeah.
So
again, find the really smart people and pay them a bit of money. Like also applies to getting some smart UX folks in the room.
Not just developers, not just module makers or whatever. Yeah. Anything else? Any more trolling?
I wasn't trolling.
No, I know. That was a good question. Little context. Colin used to work with us.
I control someone charging that.
Oh, is it time?
Yes, time is, so lunch is going to be done.
Yep. All right.
I think we're done.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.